You see, in the past, as I told you, we had some legends in the field of anatomy, which we describe in the other lecture. And so the teachings of anatomy in the past was totally different from the teachings of today. I'm sure you even among you people, you know your life in the past was completely different from your life in the present. When you were young, you could not even remember what happened. But now you can remember what has happened, in the last 2-3 years ago. Are you clear? So previously, the teaching of anatomy was so crude, but now it's refined. Refined in the sense that the technological development and industrial revolution has revolutionized the teachings of anatomy. The reason because of this industrial revolution, where so many industries emanated and so many scientific apparatus were developed, so that is why actually the teaching and learning of anatomy now is simpler than before, because we have certain tools, teaching tools that can help you people or guide you people to learn anatomy better than your previous colleagues. Like when we discuss about the issue of CT scan, what we call computerized tomography, CT scan, we call it computerized tomography. So that CT scan is the presence of this computerized scanning machine. One can now utilize that kind of machine to study human body in total, from head to toe. So you can use the machine to dissect any part of the human body you want to see while the person is alive. You just put the person into the machine, and then wherever you want to, dissect using the machine, then the picture or the scan will come out, and then you will see exactly whatever you want to see. And the advent of this CT scan has already made people, the physicians or the surgeons, to diagnose and treat diseases with ease. Because no matter how small, a disease is in any other part of the body, like all these cancers, and any other swelling in the human body, no matter how tiny it is, the machine can detect it and can give you exactly where the location is, so that it can guide the surgeon when the surgeon wants to operate. Unlike before, when the machine was not available, when you come to complain to the doctor will just take you to the theater and blindly open you. He doesn't even know whatever is going on until he opens, and then he will see it, and then if it is something that he will cut, he will cut. If it is something that he will not cut, and then he will leave you intact like that. And so the CT scan contributed to that, and also the advent of this magnetic resonance imaging, what we call MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. That MRI is a little bit better than the CT scan because it delineates more, much better than the CT scan itself. So X-ray, before the advent of the CT scan and the MRI, people were also using X-rays, like somebody who has some respiratory diseases, and other problems. The X-ray, when somebody does an X-ray, it can show places that are opaque, like the bony areas, like the chest, the thoracic cavity, the chest wall can be delineated, and whatever is inside, can be seen if it is something that is opaque. So the X-ray also helped in learning anatomy. And apart from that, I think, the surface anatomy nowadays in the living, one can also delineate certain things on the surface, on the body of. So actually, the modern era has contributed very well in making anatomy learning very much easier. So, like I told you before, there are various ways that one can approach the study of anatomy. In any field, there are so many approaches on which you people are supposed to learn that subject. Like in medicine, actually, there are so many tactics that one can use to understand anatomy or to understand physiology or biochemistry. But in anatomy, actually, there are two major methods of teaching anatomy. You either learn anatomy by region, what we call regional anatomy, or you learn it by system. That is what we call systemic anatomy. So you can learn anatomy in either of these two ways. What do we mean by region? You know, the human body is typically divided into two regions. I said what? The human body is divided into two regions. What we call appendicular region, and axial region. So we have basically two regions. The axial region, when you remove the upper limb, you cut this, you also cut the two lower limbs. What is remaining is what we call axial region. So it includes head, neck, and trunk. And the trunk consists of the thorax, abdomen, pelvis, and perineum. That is what we call the axis because it is in the midline. Then the appendicular region is both the upper and the lower limbs. So we have basically two regions. So other universities or other scholars, they teach students in regional anatomy. They teach students by regional approach. That means they start teaching the student by upper limb, first, lower limb, second, that is appendicular region. So they finish with this appendicular region first, then they now go to the axial region. So they now, after the upper and the lower limb, then they now discuss the thorax, then they discuss the abdomen, then they do pelvis and perineum. In the final year, they now treat the head and the neck. Are you clear? Why do we leave the head and the neck until when you reach level 3? It's because this is very complex area. When I use a knife to cut your head, will you survive? So it is very important. And that is why we leave the study of the head and neck when you reach level 300, because the brain is inside. You know, brain is what makes everybody, every creature on earth different. The brain is the only organ that makes humans to be totally on top. Even God said it in the Holy Quran. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا is because of the complex brain. Otherwise, animals, they do have brain. They do all the things that God wants them to do. But yet we are superior because God has given us brain to think and be wise. And because of our wiseness, that is why we are called Homo sapiens. We are wise individuals. And if we notice a human being behaving otherwise, that is why we tend to be like anatomists. Actually, I always feel bad if I see people behaving like animals. Every day I come out from my house, I feel bad. Because animals have already changed. They have metamorphosed from human beings to animals. Yes, there is evolutionary change. The brain of human beings now is becoming so primitive, like that of animals. You get my point? Let us not digress from what we have been teaching. Now we've seen the regional approach. The systemic approach is teaching anatomy by system. We have about a dozen of systems in the human body. We have what? A dozen of systems in the human body. The first one is what we call integumentary system. The integumentary system is nothing but the skin and it is allied. The skin and it is what? Allied. That means the skin and its own friends. The skin has friends. Hairs, fingernails. Are you clear? All these are the friends of the skin. So the integumentary system, the skin is just like the plaster of your houses. When you build a house, you plaster it and you paint it, and it gives a very beautiful look, right? The same thing with the skin. Some of you are darker in complexion. Some are lighter in complexion, like myself, right? So the skin now gives you the beauty, especially like kind of people, they like people who are lighter in complexion. Say and that is why most of you go and put foundation on the face during Salah celebration so that you see somebody who will marry you. Forget about that. It's very dangerous. Then to waste your time, live your natural beauty. Allah has given us a very nice color. That our chocolate color is completely adorable, very nice, and it has a protective purpose. So the skin is just like the plaster, as I told you. It gives a beauty. One of the functions of the skin gives a beauty, because you will see a fresh skin, old skin, light skin, brown skin, darker skin, and so it gives color, So apart from that, in the skin itself, that's what we call sweat gland. So once normal body processes take place after eating and drinking, your body tends to produce heat. You get my point? And so the heat is being, taken out of the body through the sweat. By the time you sweat, you will see that the sweat is a little bit warm. So it helps in, bringing out, the dissipating heat and what have you. So also sebaceous gland, during cold weather, you will find out that our skin is getting drier. So God Almighty now put some glands inside the skin, and that sebaceous gland is producing oil. So you will see that at times your body, even though it's dry, but it's not as dry as if there is no sebaceous gland. So the sebaceous gland now gives some lubrication to our own body, and then it also prevents, some part of our body from, dissipating too much heat outside. So it also insulates, our own body during cold weather, so that we can not, bring out too much heat from our own body. And then it also contains nerve endings inside. So the nerve endings, when somebody now shook you with a needle and syringe or with a knife, you are going to feel the pain. This is as a result of the nerve endings that are present inside the skin. You get my point? Similarly, there are hair follicles in the skin planted inside there. So the hair follicles are there, and then the hairs, they come out of the skin so as to, protect you from the environmental hazards. So the hair in our head, the hair in our armpit, the hair in our pubic hair, and all over our own body, they have their own purpose, because they protect us from, dust, microorganisms, insulation, and so on and so forth. So it's like skin is also very important, and I told us that it is a protective kind of system, and coupled with this, what it contains. And it also has its own appendages, the fingernails, as I told you. The fingernails, they are also important in protecting yourself. When somebody comes to you, wants to, hurt you, you can use your fingernails to scratch him, right? And he can easily leave you alone. That is one of the weapons the animals use in protecting themselves, like cats. You get my point? So they use the fingernails to protect. The same thing with the human beings who also use it. Like all these, our young children now, when they are fighting, you see them using fingers. It's part of the protective mechanism, and it's part of the skin. So the second system is what we call musculoskeletal system. The musculoskeletal system now is two-in-one system. We have skeletal system, we have muscle system. The skeletal actually includes what we call bones. The bones all over our own body are just like a framework. When you want to build a house, you have to, erect some roads, and then you make a concrete so that the building is going to be strong. So that in case there is anything like thunder, you know what is thunder in physics and what have you, so the thunder is not going to break the room or the house or the class as a result of that metals or rods inside the building. They are just like a, what do you call it? They conduct the thunder during the storm, during the rainy season and what have you. So it's like they conduct whatever is going to come out, the electricity coming from the thunderstorm during rainy season. So the bones, they are just like a framework through which all our body is being built upon, because all our internal organs are surrounded by these bones. So they serve as a protective mechanism. In between one bone and another bone, that's what you call a joint. So a joint is a union of two or more bones. So you may have two bones uniting to form a joint, or you may have three bones uniting to form a joint, or you may have four bones uniting to form a joint. So we said a joint is a union of two or more bones. So when we talk about the skeletal or skeletal system, we mean bones and joints together, including the cartilages. So the cartilages are the models through which the bones are produced. Because before you now produce, a house, you have to have some blocks, right? You have to have some blocks and some cement. These are the building blocks. So you build your house. The same thing with the skeleton. When the bones are going to be formed, there has to be some building blocks, and those are the cartilages. So the cartilages, they are the preliminary substrate or substances that are required for the production of the bones. So when we talk about the skeletal system, we talk about the bones, the joints, and the cartilages. We have several joints in the human body. We have several bones in the human body. Then to bother yourself about knowing the different types of the joints and the bones now. Probably when you reach level 200, you are likely going to know more of this. What I want you to know now at your all level 100, know this system for now. Then in level 200, you can now know the joints, you know the bones. And the function of the skeleton, as I told you as before, is protecting our internal organs. So all our internal organs are protected by the skeleton, like our lungs, our heart inside the thorax, our gastrointestinal tracts, and what have you. They have been surrounded from at the back by the vertebral column. They also store certain compounds. You know what is calcium in chemistry. You know phosphate, all in chemistry. You get it? So the vitamin D, you know what is vitamin D in biology. So all these substances are being stored in the bones. You get my point? So bones contain all this, so that in case you are lacking these substances in your own body, the bones will now release such substances into your blood circulation, because they are very, very much important for our survival. Similarly, the skeleton produces cells. The red blood cells in us, in our own blood, are being produced by the bones themselves. You get my point? So the red blood cells in the blood are being produced in the skeleton, and they also support us. Like I'm standing now, I have not fallen down because of the bones. If the bones are not there, only muscles, I cannot stand, because the body is going to be flexible. So what is giving stability of the body is as a result of the bones, because they are hard substances. So the bones, they protect, they support us, and they also allow us to make some movement. That is locomotion. When we talk about locomotion, we're talking about the movement, moving from side to side. Like if I'm walking like this, or I want to move either ways like this, or I want to jump, or I want to run. All this is what we refer to as locomotion. So the skeleton system is responsible for locomotion. Similarly, the next part of the musculoskeletal system is the muscle. Muscular system, is also responsible for. We have different varieties of muscles in our own body with different names. Don't worry yourself to learn about the different varieties of the muscles and the names for now. Level 2, you will know that. But just know that there is muscular system responsible for allowing us to make movements, and you will learn the movements maybe in the next lecture. They also produce some energy. Whatever we eat, you get my point. The muscles, they also tend to, allow us, they produce energy, and they also produce heat. So the heat they produce, after, metabolism, the heat is being released out through the skin. So also, it gives us something like a cushion. You get my point? When we lie down, when we are sitting down, when we lean on the wall, the muscles in our body, serve as a cushion to us. You get my point? When you lie down, if there is no muscle now, you start feeling some pains and what have you. So they serve as a cushion, and also support other part of the body. All these are abdominal organs. Anteriorly here is only muscles, no bones. So these muscles, they protect the internal organs anteriorly, laterally, and posteriorly. So the muscles also, they support or protect the internal organs. Like, we say the thoracic wall also protect the internal organs within the thorax. Similarly, we also have another system, what you call respiratory system. Respiratory system is mainly made up of two lungs within our thorax. The two lungs within our thorax, the windpipe, beginning from the nostrils, our two orifices, nasal orifices, we breathe in air. It goes through our nose, enters inside our mouth, goes into the larynx, and from the larynx it goes into the trachea. The trachea now distributes the air into the two lungs. And then after the air has been taken by the lungs, the blood will now take the oxygen, circulate it into the body. After the body utilizes the oxygen, it will now return the carbon dioxide through the same lung. And then it will now get out of the windpipe and comes out of our nostrils. So that means we breathe in air and breathe out air again. So breathing in oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide. You know that in biology. So the respiratory system is very important for our survival because without oxygen, no organism can survive. All of the creation you see in the world, we depend on oxygen. The animals, we utilize the oxygen. The carbon dioxide we breathe out. The plants utilize them. So it's like the plants that we plant. Anything you see around us, all these trees, they give us this oxygen. Once they give us oxygen, we enjoy it, we survive. Then we breathe out carbon dioxide. Then they utilize it. That means we do what? Symbiotic relationship. They give us something, we give them something. So we are just keeping each other alive. Without plants, we may not survive. They too, without us, they will not survive. So we are just together. Are you clear? So we have now seen the importance of the respiratory system. The cardiovascular system is made up of the heart and its own great vessels. The heart is situated in between the two lungs in the thorax. Are you clear? So we said the heart is situated in between the two lungs and the thorax, and then it has great vessels, the aorta and the pulmonary trunk. So it is this aorta that distributes all the branches to all other parts of the body, distributing the oxygen and other nutrients that we eat. Are you clear? So we have now seen this cardiovascular system is part of the circulatory system. Circulatory system is divided into cardiovascular and lymphatic. And the cardiovascular system is this one, consisting of the heart and the great vessels. Are you clear? Good. So we have now seen responsible for distributing oxygen and other nutrients to all other parts of our body. So it forms blood by two major movements, systole and diastole. So there are two types of movement that this heart does to pump the blood, out of it or into it. Systole and diastole kind of movement. The lymphatics are responsible for distributing lymph into our body. This lymph is part of the body fluid responsible for transporting, the immune cells, the white blood cells. I'm sure you must have heard about white blood cells. These white blood cells, they are responsible for keeping ourselves protected from the environmental diseases like bacteria, viruses, and other harmful organisms around us or inside us. So the lymphatic system consists of all these lymph nodes. When you are sick, you will find out at times when you have a cut on your forearm, you will feel some swelling inside your armpit, kalulu da Hausa, or you have it in the groin here. It's as a result of this lymph node, part of the lymphatic system. So once there's an infection, they tend to swell up so that they protect the infection from going up. So the swelling you see in the armpit or the swelling you see in the groin, that kalula, is not a disease, it's a protection. The body is trying to protect you from further, separating the infection all over the body. Are you clear? So we have now seen the circulatory system. The digestive system is responsible for degrading down all what we are going to eat. That is why I told you initially that our body is a complex machine. All the machines that you can think of in this world is there in our own body. Whatever you see in the world, all these machines you are seeing, whether produced in the past or in the present, it was initially, imitated from our own being. Whatever you see people doing is imitated from human being or from animals. You get my point? Good. So the digestive system, once we eat, the teeth will grind. The saliva in the mouth will make it softer. The food will now go down from the mouth down to the food pipe, that is the esophagus. It will now go to the stomach. from the stomach is a machine that will now grind. It's a grinding machine. The stomach is a grinding machine. It will now grind the food, and then the liquid form of the food will now pass through the smaller intestine, so it will get absorbed from there. And then after absorption, the food will now go into different part of the body. The waste will now be taken through the large intestine and then comes out and gets stored in the large intestine before it is finally been passed out as a feces. You get my point? So that is what we call digestive system. So it is a system that tries to digest whatever we eat or drink, and then utilize the portion of that food or drink that we took, and then the waste is now going to be brought out as feces. That is what we call gastrointestinal tract. Because of the stomach in Greek is called gastric. You see, most of these terminologies in anatomy or in medicine, they are all derived from either Greek or Latin. That means either from Italy or from Greece. Are you clear? So in Latin or Greek. So because they were the pioneers of this medical aspect or scientific aspect. So we have now seen gastrointestinal system. The next one is reproductive system. Reproduction is meant naturally by God, for us to survive or to proliferate. Without reproduction, probably we wouldn't have been here now. So in the females, we have what we call the reproductive system, the uterus and the fallopian tubes. We also have the vagina. So we have the vagina, we have the uterus, we have fallopian tubes, and then we have the ovaries. The ovaries, one on the left side, one on the right side. And so, as I told you earlier, the ovaries, they're like the industries of where the eggs are being produced. So these eggs, as they are produced, as soon as there is a sexual intercourse in the vagina, the sperm cells will move, come into the fallopian tube, meet the egg of the woman, fertilization takes place, and then the fertilized ovum gets into the uterus, and then the pregnancy will now continue, and then the baby will now grow, and then the baby is now going to be born after 9 months. So that is the reproductive system. With regard to the male, here we have ovaries and the uterus and the vagina. But in the male, we have testicles, and then we have the seminal vesicles, we have the prostate, and then you have the penis. So the testicles now, they produce sperm cells. The sperm cells, after they are being produced, they pass through a pipe, what we call vas deferens. From there, they now unite with another duct, what we call the seminal vesicle duct. From the seminal vesicle, so they unite, and then they form what we call ejaculatory duct. The two ducts, they open into one gland, what we call the prostate, underneath the bladder of a man. And so from there now, the sperm cells are released into the vagina during sexual intercourse, and then from the vagina, they now go where they are going to meet the egg of the woman, and fertilization will now take place. So the reproductive apparatus for women is vagina, uterus, fallopian tube, and ovaries. In the male, we have testicles, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, prostate. These are the reproductive system with regard to the man. Urinary system is mainly responsible for the excretion of what we have drunk. If you drink water, within some few hours now, you may likely feel like going to urinate. So it is the kidney that, produce the urine. The kidney will now produce the urine, and then from the kidney, the urine will now pass through a pipe. That pipe is what we call a ureter. From the two ureters, they now pass into the bladder. This bladder is just like a stool for the urine after it has been formed by the two kidneys. So these are the two kidneys, left kidney, and the right kidney. So the two together, they produce the urine, they pass the urine through the ureter, and then the ureters, they enter into the bladder, so the urine is stored in the bladder before finally it's been voided through the urethra. This urethra is just like the pipe through which the urine is being passed out in both male and female. So we have seen the urinary system responsible for the production of urine. The urine is just like a toxic waste of what we have drunk. So we also have the next one is what we call nervous system. Nervous system is the master system. Master in the sense that it masters every part of our own system. It is a controller of the entire system in the human body. All the 11 systems in the body, it is the nervous system that controls everywhere. You get it? So it is divided into central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is the brain, and the brain is divided into the large brain, known as the cerebral hemisphere, and the small brain known as the cerebellum. So we have the large brain, and then we have the small brain, and then we have the spinal cord. That spinal cord, it has branches. That is the sensory and the motor nerves that we have discussed when we were discussing the Herophilus, who described the motor and the sensory. So the branches coming out or going into the spinal cord, they are the sensory nerve and the motor nerves that carry information either from our external environment or from the internal environment to the external environment. So we have now seen the central nervous system. All the information around us is being sensed by the nervous system. So anything that disturbs us in our environment, the information is carried through the sensory information. The information is taken to the nervous system. The nervous system will process that information, and then the information will now flow back through the motor system so that you now take action. For example, now if I now prick you with a needle, easily you remove your hand. So it means that once I prick you with that needle, the information has been taken by the sensory nerves, taken to the brain. The brain will interpret and say, wow, that is a problem, quickly remove your hand. So the information will now flow back, so then you now remove your hand. Just like that needle is now giving you information, look, there is a problem. The information is taken to the brain, yes, there is a problem, then remove it. You get it? That is exactly what is going on. So it's just like within fractions of seconds, that information is instantly taken into the nervous system, and then it is being processed. Endocrine system, combinations of several glands, they are distributed all over our body, within the thorax, within the abdomen, within the pelvis and perineum, wherever. They are distributed. They are responsible for autonomic, control of our own body. We will discuss them along the line in level 200. We have something like pancreas, adrenal gland, thyroid gland in the neck, and so on and so forth. So they are responsible for controlling other part of our own body system. Some of the endocrine system, they control movement, some they control digestion, some they control the immunity, some they control urination, some they control reproduction. So it means like they are like nervous system. So they are also master system. But the master of the masters is the nervous system. Are you clear? So we have now seen the endocrine. The immune system is responsible for immunity. What do you mean by immunity? That means whatever is going on, either in our own external environment or from within us, like maybe diseases, all these mosquitoes in Africa here, the bacteria that we use to eat in our food, and so many, the coronavirus that we have currently, so our body system tends to curtail our own organs or system from getting affected. So whatever we get from our external environment, like when you cough, you bring out some germs, or when you talk, billions of microorganisms come out when you talk, without you seeing them. When you cough, you also bring out billions of microorganisms from within you. And we also inhale so many millions or billions of microorganisms inside our own body. And they are harmful. But God so kind, our body system created us with soldiers, police, Carota, and so on and so forth inside us. So many kind of them, they are inside us. All these Carota, policemen, soldiers, DSS, NAVOs, they are all in, each of these has its own function. Like the function of Carota and Kano. They have their own function. Militaries, they have their own function. Police, they have their own function. The same thing with immune system. All these divisions that we see in our external being, they are also the same in our own body. When you come to this immune system, you will see wonders of God. Like the DSS I'm talking about, you know, the DSS are just like the intelligence. They get some intelligent information, right? And give to the government for the government to take action. There is what we call memory cells in our own body. So that when you have an attack, you have a disease, maybe you have one microorganism now going into you, the body will recognize that organism. Say, this one is very harmful organism. Now I know you. Next time when you come, you will see how we are going to deal with you. So those cells, the memory cells, will now go and inform other colleagues that, look, we have seen one very dangerous criminal. That is the bacteria or organism or whatever. So, let us prepare about him. So they will now start producing a lot of weapons to attack that person when next he comes. You get my point? That is exactly what is going on. And the militaries, as I was telling you, once they see something that is going to be harmful, they start shooting. So those are the attackers. So these are the lymphocytes. When you come, you will see them. The lymphocytes, both the small and large lymphocytes and what have you. Neutrophils, they are all there. You go? So once you come to level 200, you go deep into it, you will definitely see the wonders of God within us. So I think, by and large, I don't think we have omitted anything. So we have a break and we entertain certain questions or